The Galactic Administrative Bureau had existed for 12,000 years. It processed trillions of documents every standard cycle. It managed the lives, deaths, births, and transfers of every sentient being across 700 inhabited worlds. In all that time, in all those countless operations, there had never been a mistake quite like this one. Mira Chen was 22 years old. She worked at a small bakery in Portland, Oregon, on a planet called Earth. Earth was classified as a Category 9 world, which meant it was primitive, protected, and absolutely off-limits for galactic interaction. The humans there didn't know about the wider universe. They had no idea that faster-than-light travel existed, that dozens of alien species walked between the stars, or that their little blue planet was considered something of a nature preserve by the Galactic Council. Mira knew none of this. She knew how to make croissants. She knew how to wake up at 4 in the morning. She knew how to smile at customers even when her feet hurt. Her life was small and quiet and perfectly ordinary, until it wasn't. The mistake began in Section 447B of the Administrative Bureau, where a clerk named Vortex was having a very bad day. Vortex belonged to a species called the Mellory, which resembled tall blue insects with too many arms. He had been processing transfer documents for military academies across the galaxy, specifically student intake forms for the upcoming term. There were 47 military academies in the known galaxy. Only one of them was considered truly dangerous. The Ironhold Academy on the planet Kethros Prime was legendary. It trained the deadliest soldiers, the most brilliant tacticians, and the most ruthless commanders in existence. Its students came from warrior species across dozens of worlds. The mortality rate during training was 18%. Those who survived became legends. Those who didn't became statistics. Vortex was supposed to process the transfer of a student named Mira Chen Vax, a promising young warrior from the Vaxian Empire. The Vaxians were 7 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating, and could survive in the vacuum of space for up to 3 minutes. Mira Chen Vax had killed her first enemy combatant at age 12. She was exactly the kind of student Ironhold Academy wanted, but Vortex was tired. His third spouse had just left him. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His many hands were shaking from too much stimulant drink. When he entered the name into the system, he made a tiny error. He typed Mira Chen instead of Mira Chen Vax. He selected Earth instead of Vaxus Prime. He didn't notice the warning that popped up about Category 9 world restrictions. He clicked through it automatically. The transfer was processed. The system, which had never made such an error before, didn't have proper safeguards for this situation. It simply did what it was told. It initiated a standard military academy retrieval protocol for one Mira Chen of Earth. Mira was in the middle of frosting a birthday cake when the light appeared. It was blue and white, and impossibly bright. It filled the entire back room of the bakery. She dropped her frosting bag. She tried to scream, then she was somewhere else. The transport chamber on receiving station Kethros 7 was cold and sterile. Mira appeared in a flash of light, still wearing her flower-covered apron, still holding one hand up as if reaching for the frosting bag that was no longer there. She stood on a metal platform surrounded by smooth walls and blinking lights. Everything around her was chrome and blue and utterly alien. She screamed then. A good, proper scream that came from deep in her chest. The door to the chamber opened. A creature walked in that made Mira's scream cut off in pure shock. It was humanoid but wrong. Its skin was dark green and covered in scales. Its eyes were yellow with vertical pupils. It had a mouth full of teeth that were clearly designed for tearing meat from bone. It wore a uniform of black and silver, and it looked at Mira like she was a puzzle it didn't understand. "You are the new transfer student," the creature said. Its voice was deep and rough, like gravel being crushed. "Mira Chen of Earth. Welcome to Ironhold Academy orientation." Mira opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She tried again. "What?" she whispered. "What is happening?" The creature consulted a device on its wrist. "You have been selected for admission to Ironhold Academy, the premier military training institution in the known galaxy. You will report to orientation in 1 hour. You will receive your housing assignment, your training schedule, and your equipment allocation. Do you have questions?" Mira had approximately 10,000 questions. She couldn't form any of them into words. She looked down at herself. Flour-covered apron, comfortable shoes, a small burn on her left hand from the oven yesterday. This couldn't be real. This had to be a dream or a hallucination or some kind of mental breakdown. "This is a mistake," she finally managed. "I'm not supposed to be here. I work at a bakery. I make bread. I don't know anything about military academies. The creature checked its device again. Mira Chen. Earth. Category 9 Homeworld. Remarkable. You are the first human ever admitted to Ironhold Academy. Your species has never produced a student capable of meeting our standards before. You must be exceptional. I'm really not, Mira said. Her voice was getting higher. I'm the opposite of exceptional. I once cried because I burned a batch of cookies. I can't even kill spiders. I take them outside in cups. Please, there has to be someone I can talk to about this. The creature's expression didn't change. It didn't seem capable of changing. All admission decisions are final. The Administrative Bureau does not make errors. You are here because you are meant to be here. Report to orientation in 57 minutes. It turned and walked out. The door closed behind it. Mira stood alone in the transport chamber. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Her hands were shaking. She walked to the wall and touched it. It was real, cold and smooth and absolutely real. She walked to the door and touched it. Also real. Okay, she said out loud, because hearing her own voice helped. Okay, this is fine. This is totally fine. I've been abducted by aliens and taken to a military academy in space and I'm going to die. That's fine. She laughed then, a slightly hysterical laugh that echoed off the chamber walls. The door opened again. A different creature entered this time. This one looked almost human, except it was too tall and too thin, and its skin was pure white. Its eyes were solid black with no visible pupils. It wore the same black and silver uniform. You are Mira Chen, it said. Its voice was soft and musical, nothing like the rough growl of the scaled creature. I am Instructor Delane. I will escort you to orientation. I was just telling the other one, Mira said. This is a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm a baker from Earth. I've never fought anyone in my life. Instructor Delane tilted its head. Earth, interesting. Your species is classified as primitive and protected. How did you receive an admission offer? I didn't receive anything. I was making a cake and then I was here. Delane's black eyes seemed to study her more closely. That is unusual. Admission offers are delivered months in advance. Students prepare extensively before arrival. You are saying you received no notice at all? I'm saying I was literally in the middle of frosting a cake. I still have flour on my apron. Delane was quiet for a moment. There may have been an administrative irregularity. I will make inquiries. However, you are here now. The transport that delivered you cannot return you without extensive paperwork and approval from the Bureau. That process takes weeks, sometimes months. In the meantime, you are officially enrolled at Ironhold Academy. Mira felt her legs go weak. She leaned against the wall. Weeks? Months? I can't stay here for months. I have a job. I have an apartment. I have a cat. Who's going to feed my cat? These concerns are understandable but not relevant to your immediate situation. You must attend orientation. You must receive your housing assignment. After that, we can discuss the administrative irregularity. Mira wanted to argue more. She wanted to demand to speak to someone in charge, but she was in a room on what appeared to be a space station orbiting an alien planet, talking to a creature that wasn't remotely human. What was she supposed to do? Fight her way out? She didn't know how to fight. She didn't know where she was. She didn't know anything. Fine, she said quietly. Take me to orientation. The halls of the station were nothing like Mira expected. They were busy and crowded with dozens of different species. Some were humanoid, some were not. She saw creatures with 4 legs, creatures with tentacles, creatures that seemed to float instead of walk. All of them wore the same black and silver uniform. All of them looked dangerous, and all of them were staring at her. She became aware, suddenly, of how small she was. She was 5'4". Most of the beings around her were over 6 feet tall. Many were over 7 feet. Some were approaching 8. She was also soft where they were hard, delicate where they were armored, weak where they were strong. They are staring. She whispered to Instructor Delane. You are unusual. Most species here are familiar with each other. Humans are unknown. They are curious. They look like they want to eat me. Some of them may. The Vorshan are carnivorous and prefer live prey. However, attacking a fellow student outside of sanctioned training exercises is forbidden. You should be safe. Should be. Delane didn't answer. The orientation hall was enormous. It could have held an entire football stadium inside with room to spare. There were hundreds of new students gathered there, all sitting in rows of seats that faced a raised platform. Mira was directed to an empty seat near the front. The students around her immediately shifted away, creating a bubble of empty space. What is that thing? Is that a human? I thought they were protected. Look how small it is. How did it get in? Maybe it's a servant? Or a pet? Mira heard the whispers. She pretended not to hear them. She sat very still and stared straight ahead and tried not to cry. She would not cry in front of a bunch of aliens. She had too much pride for that. The orientation began with a speech from the Academy's commandant. A massive creature covered in gray fur with arms as thick as Mira's entire body. His name was Grand Marshal Thokran, and his voice boomed through the hall like thunder. You are here because you are the best, he said. You are here because you have proven yourself worthy of Ironhold Academy. The training you will receive here will push you beyond any limit you thought you had. Many of you will fail. Some of you will die. Those who survive will become legends. Mira felt her stomach drop. Die. He said some of them would die. This wasn't just a school. This was a death trap with a diploma at the end. You will train in combat, strategy, survival, and leadership. You will face challenges designed to break you. You will be tested every single day. There will be no mercy. There will be no accommodation for weakness. You will become strong, or you will be removed. The Grand Marshal's eyes swept across the assembled students. Mira could have sworn they paused on her, though maybe she was imagining it. Training begins tomorrow. Your housing assignments have been uploaded to your personal devices. Find your quarters. Rest while you can. You will need it. He walked off the platform. The orientation was apparently over. Mira looked at her wrist. She didn't have a personal device. She didn't have anything except her apron and her normal clothes. She looked around helplessly as all the other students began to leave. A shadow fell over her. She looked up. A creature loomed above her, easily 8 feet tall, with blue-gray skin and muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. Its face was almost human, but its eyes were pure silver, and its teeth were sharp. It wore the black and silver uniform of a student, with additional markings that Mira didn't understand. Human, it said. Its voice was like a rumbling engine. I am Krath, son of the Azori Prime Warlord. You do not belong here. Mira stood up. She came up to approximately the creature's chest. I know I don't belong here. Trust me, I would love to leave. Your kind is weak. Soft. You cannot survive Ironhold. You should throw yourself into the void now and save yourself the suffering. Several other students had gathered around to watch. None of them intervened. Some of them were grinning. Mira looked at Krath. She looked at all the hostile faces surrounding her. She thought about home. She thought about her bakery and her cat and her small, safe life. She thought about how terrified she was right now, how completely out of her depth, how certain she was that she was going to die, and something inside her got angry. Listen, she said, and her voice was steady even though her hands were shaking. I didn't ask to be here. I was kidnapped from my kitchen while making a birthday cake. I have no training, no weapons, and no idea what's going on, but I'm not going to throw myself into anything just because you think I should. Krath leaned down. His silver eyes were inches from her face. You will not survive the first week. Maybe not, but I'm going to try. And if I die, it's going to be because something killed me, not because I gave up. That's what humans do. We keep going even when everything is impossible. It's basically our whole thing. Krath studied her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. Entertaining. I will enjoy watching you fail, little human. He walked away. His group of followers went with him. Mira stood alone in the emptying hall. Her legs were shaking so badly she had to sit down again. She put her head in her hands and took deep breaths. She had just mouthed off to an 8-foot alien warrior. She had just declared that she was going to try to survive a military academy designed for species that were literally designed for war. That was either very brave or very stupid. She looked up. Another student was standing nearby, but this one was different. It was smaller, only about 6 feet tall, with pale purple skin and large dark eyes. Its build was slender, almost delicate by the standards of the creatures Mira had seen. It wore the same uniform as everyone else. I'm guessing stupid, Mira said. The creature made a sound that was probably a smile. Krath is the son of the most powerful warlord in the Azori Empire. He has already killed 3 opponents in formal duels. Most students avoid him. Great. Good to know. I'll add that to my list of things to worry about. The purple-skinned creature sat down next to her. I am Sevi. My species is called Lirani. We are not warriors by nature either. We are scientists, scholars. I am only here because my government required me to attend. A political arrangement. Mira felt a tiny spark of hope. So you don't want to be here either? I would rather be anywhere else. But since I am here, I intend to survive. Perhaps we could assist each other. Two weak creatures together are slightly less weak than one. Mira laughed, a real laugh this time. That's the most practical alliance pitch I've ever heard. Sure, let's be survival partners. Sevi extended a hand with 6 fingers. Then we have an agreement. Now, you do not have a personal device, I noticed. I can help you navigate the station to find your quarters. Thank you. Seriously. You're the first person who's been kind to me since I got here. The Lirani believe that kindness has strategic value. It costs little and can create valuable alliances. Besides, you intrigue me. No human has ever been admitted to Ironhold. You must have been chosen for a reason. Mira thought about what she knew. That there had been a mistake. That she wasn't supposed to be here at all. That the Administrative Bureau apparently didn't make errors even when it obviously did. I don't think there was a reason, she said. I think I'm just unlucky. Sevi tilted its head. Perhaps. Or perhaps the universe has plans for you that you do not yet understand. Either way, you are here now. And you need to find your quarters. They walked through the station together. Sevi explained things as they went. The different areas of the station. The hierarchy among the species. The basic rules of the academy. Mira absorbed as much as she could, but her head was spinning with information overload. Her quarters were a small room on the lower levels of the station. It had a bed that looked uncomfortable, a desk with strange equipment on it, and a window that showed the vastness of space. She could see the planet below, a world of red and brown with swirling clouds. It looked hostile. Everything here looked hostile. I will come for you tomorrow before training begins, Sevi said. Try to rest. You will need your strength. Sevi left. Mira stood alone in her room. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. They were beautiful and terrifying. They were so far from home. Earth was out there somewhere, a tiny blue dot in a galaxy full of war and danger and things that wanted to eat her. She was going to die here. She was certain of it. But she had told Krath the truth. She wasn't going to give up. Giving up wasn't in her nature. She had survived plenty of hard things in her life. Not as hard as this, obviously, but hard enough that she knew how to keep going. She took off her flower-covered apron and folded it carefully. It was the only thing she had from home. She would keep it safe. Then she lay down on the uncomfortable bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, her training would begin. Tomorrow, she would have to face challenges designed for species that were bigger, stronger, and deadlier than anything humanity had ever imagined. Tomorrow, she would start fighting for her life. But that was tomorrow. Tonight, she would rest. Tonight, she would gather whatever strength she had, and she would hope, desperately, that somewhere in the universe, someone would fix the clerical error that had dropped her into this nightmare. The first morning at Ironhold Academy came too quickly. Mira was woken by a sound that pierced through her skull like a needle. It was an alarm, designed to be impossible to sleep through. She rolled off the uncomfortable bed and hit the floor, confused and disoriented. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then she looked at the window, saw the alien stars, and remembered everything. She was still wearing her clothes from yesterday. She had nothing else to wear. She had no uniform, no equipment, no personal device. She was going to have to show up to military training in baker's clothes. There was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Sevi standing there, holding a bundle of black and silver fabric. I anticipated this problem, Sevi said. I requisitioned a uniform in your size. It was not easy. No one has ever ordered a uniform this small. Mira could have hugged the purple alien. She didn't, because she wasn't sure if Lirani hugged, but she wanted to. Thank you. Seriously. You might have just saved my life. Put it on quickly. Training begins in 20 minutes. Being late on the first day is strongly inadvisable. Mira changed into the uniform. It fit poorly, slightly too long in the legs and too wide in the shoulders, but it was close enough. She rolled up the pants and tightened the belt. She looked at herself in the small mirror on the wall. She looked like a child playing dress-up, a child who was about to enter a war zone. The training grounds were located on the planet's surface, not the station. Mira and Sevi took a transport ship down along with hundreds of other new students. The ship was cramped and loud, full of creatures talking and laughing and showing off. Mira stayed silent. She tried to make herself as small as possible. The planet's surface was red and rocky and hostile. The air was breathable but thin, and Mira found herself gasping for a few minutes until her lungs adjusted. The gravity was slightly stronger than Earth's, making her feel heavy and slow. Everything about this place was designed to be difficult. The new students were lined up in a massive open area, facing a row of instructors. Mira recognized Instructor Delane among them. There were others too, each one representing a different specialty: combat instructors, strategy instructors, survival instructors. All of them looked like they could kill without breaking a sweat. First day assessment, announced a massive instructor with 4 arms and a face covered in scars. You will be sorted into training groups based on your abilities. Each of you will demonstrate your primary combat skill. Step forward when your name is called. Names were called. Students stepped forward. They demonstrated incredible abilities. One student could generate fire from his hands. Another could move so fast she was nearly invisible. One created shields of pure energy. Another had claws that could cut through solid metal. Each demonstration was more impressive than the last. Then they called Mira's name. Mira Chen, human, Earth. A murmur went through the crowd. Students turned to look at her. Most of them hadn't noticed her before, hidden among the larger bodies. Now everyone was watching. Mira walked forward on legs that felt like jelly. She stood in the center of the demonstration area, feeling impossibly small. Demonstrate your primary combat ability, the scarred instructor ordered. Mira's mind went blank. She didn't have a combat ability. She had baking abilities. She could make really good bread. She could frost a cake with perfect precision. But somehow she didn't think that would impress the alien soldiers watching her. I don't have one, she said. Her voice came out as a whisper. Speak louder. I don't have one. I don't have any combat abilities. I'm a baker. Silence. Complete, total silence. Even the wind seemed to stop. The instructor walked closer. His 4 arms crossed over his massive chest. You were admitted to Ironhold Academy without any combat abilities? I wasn't supposed to be admitted at all. There was a clerical error. More murmuring from the crowd. The instructor turned to look at the other instructors. They seemed to be communicating silently, expressions shifting in subtle ways that Mira couldn't read. There has never been a clerical error in the history of the Administrative Bureau, the instructor said finally. If you are here, you belong here. Your species must have abilities we are not aware of. We really don't. We're just regular people. We don't have special powers. Then you will develop them, or you will fail. Return to the line. Mira walked back to her spot. She could feel every eye on her. The whispers followed her like a swarm of insects. Weak. Mistake. Dead already. She heard all of it. Sevi, standing nearby, leaned close. That could have gone worse. How? How could that possibly have gone worse? You could have been immediately expelled or killed. Many instructors would consider a human's presence here an insult. The fact that they're allowing you to stay suggests curiosity. Great. I'm a curiosity. A lab rat for their amusement. Better than a corpse. Mira couldn't argue with that. The assessment continued. Students were sorted into training groups based on their abilities. The strongest went to advanced groups. The less strong went to standard groups. Mira went to the lowest group, along with Sevi and a handful of other students who were considered weak by academy standards. Their training group was assigned to Instructor Vex, a female of a species Mira didn't recognize. She was humanoid with gray skin and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She was smaller than most instructors, only about 6 feet tall, but she moved with a precision that suggested she was far more dangerous than she appeared. You are the weakest students in this year's intake, Vex said without preamble. By the standards of Ironhold Academy, you should not be here, but you are, and my job is to make sure at least some of you survive. She walked among them, examining each student. Sevi of the Lyrani, your species relies on intelligence rather than strength. You will need to be faster and smarter than everyone who wants to kill you. She moved to the next student. Torin of the Kelax, your species evolved on a low-gravity world. You are naturally weaker than most species here. You will need to compensate with skill. She continued down the line until she reached Mira. Mira Chen, human, Earth. Vex stopped in front of her. I have studied your species. You are fragile, slow, and lack any natural defenses. Your planet is protected specifically because your species would not survive contact with the wider galaxy. And yet here you are." Mira said nothing. What was there to say? "Tell me, human. Do you have any useful abilities at all? Anything that might keep you alive for more than 5 minutes in actual combat?" Mira thought about it. She really thought about it. What did humans have? They weren't strong like Krath's species. They couldn't generate fire or move at super speed. They couldn't fly or breathe underwater or see in the dark. "We're stubborn," she said finally. "We don't give up." Vex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Stubbornness. That's your survival strategy? It's kept our species going for about 200,000 years. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, disasters. We're still here." Vex studied her for a long moment. "Interesting. We will see if your stubbornness is enough. Training begins now." The first day of training was hell. There was no other word for it. They ran. They ran until Mira's lungs burned and her legs felt like they would collapse. The heavier gravity made every step harder. Students passed her effortlessly. She was always last, always struggling, always on the verge of falling. But she didn't stop. She kept running. Even when her body screamed at her to stop, she kept going. They fought. Not real fighting. Not yet. Training exercises with padded weapons. Mira was paired against opponents who outweighed her by hundreds of pounds. She was knocked down again and again. Her body accumulated bruises on top of bruises. Every hit felt like getting hit by a car. But she got up every time. She didn't stay down. Even when she couldn't see straight from pain, she got up. They solved tactical problems. Simulations of combat scenarios displayed on holographic screens. They had to make decisions quickly, correctly. Mira was slow compared to most students, but she wasn't wrong. Her human brain, evolved for pattern recognition and creative problem solving, found solutions that the warrior species missed. "Interesting," Vex said, watching Mira's performance on a simulation. "Your species processes information differently. You see connections others miss. Is that good? It's useful. In war. Sometimes the creative solution is the only solution." By the end of the first day, Mira could barely stand. Every muscle in her body ached. She had bruises covering most of her skin. Her hands were shaking from exhaustion, but she was alive. She had survived day one. Sevi found her collapsed on the ground near the training field, staring up at the alien sky. "You need to eat and rest," Sevi said. "Tomorrow will be harder." "Harder? How can it possibly be harder? They're testing us, seeing what we can handle. They increase the difficulty every day for the first month. The weak are eliminated. The strong advance." Mira groaned. "I'm going to die. Possibly. But you haven't died yet. That's something." They ate dinner in the meal hall together. The food was strange but edible, protein-heavy and designed to fuel hard training. Other students gave Mira a wide berth. She was the freak, the curiosity, the human who shouldn't be here. She ignored them and ate mechanically, putting fuel in her body because she would need it. Krath passed by her table. He paused, looking down at her with his silver eyes. "Still alive, little human. Impressive. I told you I was going to try. Trying is not surviving. The real challenges haven't begun yet. Soon they will start the elimination exercises. Then we will see how long your stubbornness lasts." He walked away. "What are elimination exercises?" Mira asked Sevi. Sevi's large dark eyes were worried. "Combat simulations, but not with padded weapons. Real injuries are common. Deaths are not unusual." Mira put down her food. She wasn't hungry anymore. That night, alone in her quarters, Mira allowed herself to cry. She cried for home. She cried for her cat, who was probably confused and wondering where she was. She cried for her small, safe life that had been ripped away from her without warning or reason. But when she was done crying, she wiped her eyes and started to think. She couldn't outfight these creatures. She couldn't outrun them. She couldn't match them in any physical contest. If she tried to compete on their terms, she would lose. She would die. But maybe she didn't have to compete on their terms. Humans had survived for thousands of years, not by being the strongest or the fastest, but by being clever. They made tools. They built traps. They used their brains to overcome obstacles that brute force couldn't handle. Mira started to plan. The next morning, she woke early. She went to the station's information center and started researching. She read about the different species at the academy, their strengths and weaknesses. She read about past elimination exercises and what strategies had succeeded. She read about everything she could find. Knowledge was her weapon. If she couldn't beat them physically, she would beat them mentally. Sevi found her surrounded by holographic displays, eyes red from lack of sleep. What are you doing? Studying, learning, finding any advantage I can. Sevi sat down next to her. That is very Lirani of you. We approve. Help me. You said your species are scientists and scholars. Help me understand these exercises. Help me find ways to survive. Sevi's lips curved into something that was definitely a smile. Now you are thinking correctly. Show me what you've found. They studied together. They analyzed past exercises. They identified patterns, weaknesses, opportunities. Mira's human brain found connections that Sevi missed. Sevi's Lirani knowledge filled in gaps that Mira couldn't bridge alone. Together, they started building a strategy. The days passed. Training continued. Mira was still the weakest student in her group, still dead last in every physical test. But she was improving. Slowly, painfully, but improving. Her body was adapting to the heavier gravity. Her endurance was increasing. Her reflexes were getting faster. And, in the tactical exercises, she was starting to excel. You're clever, Instructor Vex said one day, after Mira had solved a simulation that had stumped the rest of her group. Your species thinks in ways I've never seen before. You look at problems from angles others don't consider. We evolved as pack hunters, Mira said. We had to be clever to catch prey that was faster and stronger than us. Interesting. How did you hunt? Persistence hunting. We would chase prey for hours, sometimes days. We couldn't outrun them in a sprint, but we could outlast them. Keep going after they collapsed from exhaustion. It's one of the reasons humans are so good at endurance sports. Vex looked thoughtful. So your species survived by refusing to give up, by being more stubborn than your prey, pretty much. That may be more valuable here than you realize. Many species rely on quick victories. They don't know what to do when their opponent refuses to fall. The elimination exercises were announced at the end of the first week. They would begin in 3 days. Teams would be formed. Simulated battles would be fought. Real injuries would occur. Some students would be eliminated from the academy. Some might not survive at all. Mira and Sevi were placed on the same team, along with Torin, the low-gravity species, and 2 other students from their training group. They were the weakest team in the academy by every measurable standard. We're dead, Torin said flatly. There's no way we survive this. We can survive, Mira said. But we have to be smart about it. She gathered her team together. She laid out the research she and Sevi had done. She explained her ideas, her strategies, her plans. This is insane, one of the other students said. You want us to fight like cowards, running and hiding, instead of facing our enemies directly. I want us to fight like survivors. I don't care about glory or honor. I care about being alive at the end. If that means running, we run. If that means hiding, we hide. If that means fighting, we fight. But we choose when and how, not our enemies. The team was skeptical. But they didn't have better ideas. And Mira's confidence, her absolute refusal to accept defeat, was infectious. Fine, Torin said. We'll try your way. But if this gets us killed, I'm blaming you in the afterlife. Deal. The night before the elimination exercise, Mira couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling, running through scenarios in her head. So many things could go wrong, so many ways to fail, so many ways to die. But she had a plan. She had a team. She had something that the warrior species around her didn't expect. A human brain that refused to accept impossible odds. Tomorrow, she would find out if that was enough. She got up and walked to the window. The alien stars stared back at her. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was home. I'm going to survive this, she whispered to the stars. I'm going to survive, and then I'm going to find a way home. And when I do, I'm going to have the best story any baker has ever told. She smiled grimly. Then she went back to bed and forced herself to sleep. Tomorrow was going to be the hardest day of her life. She needed to be ready. The elimination exercise took place in a massive simulation arena on the planet's surface. It was a constructed environment, miles across, designed to replicate the chaos of actual warfare. There were buildings, forests, open fields, underground tunnels, every type of terrain that a soldier might face in battle. The rules were simple. Teams were dropped into the arena. They had to survive for 24 hours. Other teams were their enemies. Combat was allowed, encouraged even. Teams could be eliminated by losing all their members to injury or surrender. The last team standing would advance to the next level of training. The eliminated teams would either leave the academy or, in the case of serious injury, leave this life altogether. Mira's team was dropped in a heavily forested area near the arena's edge. They had standard equipment, basic weapons, survival supplies, communication devices. Nothing special. Nothing that would give them an advantage against stronger teams. But Mira had her plan. "We don't engage anyone," she said as soon as they landed. "Not unless we have no choice. Our goal is survival, not combat victories." "That's cowardice," one of her teammates said. His name was Breck, and he was a tall, lean creature with pale blue skin. "It's strategy. We're the weakest team here. Every fight we pick is a fight we'll probably lose. So, we don't pick fights. We pick our ground, we stay hidden, and we let the stronger teams eliminate each other. And if they find us, then we run. Or we set traps. Or we fight on our terms, in terrain that favors us. But we never let them choose when and where." The first few hours passed quietly. Mira's team moved through the forest, staying low, staying silent. They heard sounds of combat in the distance. Explosions, screams, the clash of weapons. Other teams were fighting. Other teams were dying. Mira kept her team moving. She had studied the arena layout before the exercise. She knew where the dangerous zones were, where teams were likely to cluster, where the safe corridors existed. She guided her team along routes that avoided likely combat zones. "This is boring," Torin complained after 3 hours. "We're not doing anything. We're surviving. That's the whole point. Other teams are earning combat points, victory bonuses. We're earning nothing. We're earning another day at this academy. That's worth more than any bonus." They found a defensible position in a rocky area where the forest thinned out. High ground, good visibility, multiple escape routes. Mira had them set up a base camp, carefully concealed among the rocks. "We stay here," she said. "We take turns watching. If anyone approaches, we slip away through the tunnels." She pointed to a cave entrance nearby that led to the underground tunnel system. "What if they block the tunnels? Then we have backup plans. 3 different escape routes. We always have options." The waiting was hard. Mira could see her team getting restless. They were warrior species, most of them. Sitting still went against their instincts. They wanted to fight, to prove themselves, to earn glory. But they trusted her. Somehow, over the past week, they had come to trust the small human who was supposed to be the weakest among them. Maybe it was her confidence. Maybe it was her clever plans. Maybe they just didn't have better options. Night fell. The arena was dark, lit only by dim emergency lights scattered throughout. The sounds of combat grew louder, then quieter. Teams were being eliminated. The number of survivors was dropping. Mira stayed awake, watching through the darkness with night vision equipment she had requisitioned. Her human eyes weren't great in the dark, but the equipment helped. She scanned the area constantly, looking for threats. Just after midnight, she spotted movement. A team was approaching their position. 5 members, all large and heavily armed. They moved with confidence, not even trying to hide. Why would they? They were strong. They had nothing to fear from weaker prey. "Wake up," Mira hissed to her team. "We have company." They gathered silently, weapons ready. Sevi looked at the approaching team through her own equipment. "That's Krath's team. One of the strongest in the arena." "Of course it is." Mira's mind was racing. They couldn't outfight Krath's team. They couldn't outrun them either. Not in a straight race. But maybe they didn't have to do either. "Everyone, into the tunnels, now. We should fight," Breck said. "Show them we're not cowards. We'll show them we're smart. Move, now." They slipped into the cave entrance just as Krath's team reached their camp. Mira watched through a gap in the rocks as Krath examined the area. "Someone was here," Krath said. "Recently. Probably the weak ones. They can't have gone far. Should we pursue? Why bother? They're not worth the effort. Let's find real opponents." They moved on. Mira let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. "See," she whispered to her team. "Sometimes the best fight is the one you don't have." They waited in the tunnels for an hour, then emerged and relocated to a new position. The arena was getting more dangerous as the number of teams decreased. The survivors were stronger, more desperate, more dangerous. But Mira's team was still alive, still intact, still following her plan. By morning, more than half the teams had been eliminated. The sounds of combat were less frequent now, but more intense when they happened. The surviving teams were the best of the best, fighting for dominance, and Mira's team, the weakest team in the exercise, was still standing. "This is actually working," Torin said, surprise evident in his voice. "I didn't think it would work." "Neither did I," Mira admitted. "But it is. We just have to keep going." The final challenge came at noon, with 12 hours left in the exercise. A message was broadcast across the arena. All remaining teams would be forced into a central zone. The outer areas would become impassable. There would be no more hiding, no more running. The final battle would begin. Mira's team moved toward the central zone along with the other survivors. There were 6 teams left. Krath's team, 3 other powerful groups, and Mira's team of misfits. The central zone was an open plain with scattered ruins for cover. Not ideal terrain for hiding. Mira's strategy of avoidance wouldn't work here. They would have to fight. "Okay," she said to her team. "New plan." "What's the new plan?" "We don't try to win. We try to survive until the exercise ends. 12 hours. That's all we need. We find the best defensive position. We dig in, and we hold. Against all those teams, they'll fight each other first. They want glory, combat, victories, honor. We don't. We're the least interesting target. They'll save us for last. And when they come for us, then we make them pay for every inch. We don't have to win, we just have to not lose. There's a difference." They found their position in the ruins of what looked like an old fortress. Solid walls, limited entry points, good sightlines. Mira had her team fortify it with traps and barriers. They used every trick she had learned, every piece of equipment they had. And then, they waited. The final battle began around them. The strong teams clashed, fighting for dominance. Explosions and weapons fire filled the air. Mira watched through gaps in the walls, tracking the combat, looking for opportunities. 2 teams have been eliminated, Sevi reported. 4 remain. Who's left? Krath's team, the Vorshan team, the Kelak's team, and us. The Vorshan team was eliminated an hour later, caught between Krath's team and the Kelak's. That left 3 teams. 2 of them were among the strongest in the exercise. One of them was Mira's. "They'll come for us now," Breck said. "We're the weakest. Easy target." "Maybe," Mira said. "But watch." She was right. Instead of coming for her team, Krath's team and the Kelak's team turned on each other. The strongest wanted to fight the strongest. It was their nature. They couldn't resist the challenge. The battle between them was brutal. Both teams were powerful, skilled, and determined. They fought for hours, wearing each other down, inflicting casualties on both sides. Mira watched it all. She kept her team hidden, silent, waiting. The sun moved across the sky. The hours ticked by. Finally, the Kelak's team was eliminated, but Krath's team had paid a heavy price. Of his 5 original members, only 3 remained, and all of them were injured. Krath looked toward Mira's position. His silver eyes seemed to find her through the walls. "Now it's just you and me, little human." His voice carried across the battlefield. "Time to finish this." "How much time is left?" Mira asked Sevi. 2 hours. "Then we hold for 2 hours." Krath's team approached the ruins. They moved slowly, cautiously. Even in their weakened state, they were dangerous. But they had lost their numerical advantage, 3 against 5, with 2 hours to hold. "Remember the traps," Mira said. "Let them trigger them. Weaken them before they reach us." The first trap caught one of Krath's teammates, a net that wrapped around him and brought him down. Mira's team followed up with weapons fire, forcing the other 2 into cover. "1 down," Torin said. "Keep focused. 2 more." The second of Krath's teammates tried to flank around the ruins. Sevi spotted him and triggered a barrier that forced him into a dead end. Breck and Torin moved to engage him while he was trapped. The fight was short and brutal. The Azori warrior was strong, but he was injured and outnumbered. He went down. 2 down, 1 left. Krath himself emerged from cover. He was injured, bleeding from multiple wounds, but his silver eyes burned with something that might have been respect. "Clever, human, very clever. You've done what I thought impossible, but it ends here." He charged. Mira's team opened fire. Krath dodged most of it, his wounded body still moving with incredible speed. He reached the wall of the ruins and started climbing. "Everyone back," Mira shouted. "Defensive positions." Krath came over the wall like a force of nature. Even wounded, he was terrifying. He swatted Breck aside like a toy. He threw Torin into a wall. He was heading straight for Mira. She didn't run. She had been running all week. Running from her fear. Running from her inadequacy. Running from the knowledge that she didn't belong here. But she was done running. She raised her weapon and fired. The shots hit Krath but didn't slow him down. He reached her and grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground. "You've done well," he said. "For a human. For a baker. But you can't beat me. No one can." Mira couldn't breathe. Her vision was starting to blur. But she managed to smile. "I don't have to beat you," she gasped. "I just have to survive." A signal sounded across the arena. The exercise was over. Time had run out. Krath froze. He looked around, confusion replacing the battle fury in his eyes. The 24 hours had ended. Any team still standing at the end were automatic winners. It didn't matter who was winning or losing in the final seconds. Mira's team was still standing, barely, bruised, battered, but standing. They had won. Krath lowered Mira to the ground. She collapsed, gasping for air, rubbing her throat. "Impossible," Krath said. "You can't have won. You didn't win a single fight." "I survived," Mira said. "That was always the goal." Krath stared at her for a long moment. Then he made that sound again. The one that might have been a laugh. "Incredible. The weakest student in the academy, leading the weakest team. And they survived the elimination exercise by refusing to fight. I have never seen anything like it. It's what humans do. We survive, even when we shouldn't." Krath extended a massive hand. Mira took it, letting him help her to her feet. "I was wrong about you, Mira Chen. You are not weak. You are something else entirely. Something I do not have words for. Stubborn. The word is stubborn. Stubborn. Yes, that will do." The aftermath of the elimination exercise was chaotic. Medical teams swarmed the arena, treating the injured. Eliminated teams were collected and removed. The survivors gathered in the central zone, waiting for official results. Mira's team was the most talked about group in the exercise. Not because they had won the most fights or earned the most combat points. They hadn't won any fights or earned any points. They had simply refused to lose. Grand Marshal Thokrin himself came to address them. "You are Mira Chen," he said, looking down at her with his massive, fur-covered form. "Yes, sir. You led a team of the weakest students in the academy to survive the elimination exercise without winning a single combat engagement." "Yes, sir." "How?" Mira thought about the question. How had she done it? She hadn't been stronger or faster or tougher. She had just been unwilling to accept defeat. "I changed the rules," she said finally. "Everyone else was trying to win. I was trying to survive. Sometimes those are the same thing. Sometimes they're not." Thokrin was silent for a long moment. "Interesting. Your species has been classified as weak and protected for 300 years. Perhaps that classification needs to be reconsidered." He walked away. Sevi appeared at Mira's side. "Do you know what you've done? Survived? More than that. You've changed how this academy thinks about combat, about strategy, about what it means to be strong. They'll be studying this exercise for years." Mira laughed, a slightly hysterical laugh. "I was just trying not to die." "Yes. And in doing so you may have changed everything." The next few weeks were different. Mira was no longer invisible. She was no longer the joke, the curiosity, the human who shouldn't be here. She was a legend. Students who had ignored her before now sought her advice. Instructors who had dismissed her now studied her tactics. Even Krath, the son of the most powerful warlord in the Azori Empire, treated her with respect. "You are different," he told her one day, while they sat together in the meal hall. "I thought you were weak because you couldn't fight like us. But you don't need to fight like us. You fight like a human, and apparently, that's enough. It's all I've got. It's more than you think." Instructor Vex pulled Mira aside after training one day. "Your administrative situation has been resolved," she said. Mira's heart stopped. "What?" "There was an investigation into how you came to be admitted. They found the error. A clerk entered the wrong name. You were brought here by mistake, so I can go home." Vex was quiet for a moment. "You can. A transport has been arranged. You can return to Earth and resume your normal life. Your memories of this place will be suppressed. You'll forget everything that happened." Mira thought about it. She thought about her bakery, her cat, her small and safe life. She thought about frosting cakes and making bread and never worrying about anything more dangerous than a hot oven. Then she thought about what she had accomplished here, about the friends she had made, the obstacles she had overcome. the person she had become. What if I want to stay? Vex's eyes widened. It was the first time Mira had seen her surprised. Stay? You want to stay at Ironhold Academy? After everything you've been through? I didn't choose to come here, but I'm here now, and I'm doing something no human has ever done. I'm changing how these species think about my people. That matters more than making bread. The training will only get harder. The challenge is more dangerous. You could still die. I could die crossing the street back home. At least here. My death would mean something. Vex studied her for a long time. You are certain? I am. Then I will inform the Administrative Bureau. Your enrollment will be made permanent. Mira nodded. She was terrified, but she was also excited. For the first time in her life, she was part of something bigger than herself, something that mattered. That night, she stood at her window and looked out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, a tiny blue dot in the vastness of space. Her old life was out there. Her cat was out there, everything familiar and safe. But this was her life now. This impossible, terrifying, amazing new life. She was Mira Chen, human, baker, survivor, and she was just getting started. The clerical error that had dropped her into the galaxy's most dangerous academy had been a mistake. But maybe, just maybe, it was the best mistake that had ever happened to her. She smiled at the stars and went to bed. Tomorrow, her training would continue. Tomorrow, she would face new challenges, new dangers, new opportunities to prove that humans were more than anyone expected. Tomorrow, she would keep surviving, and maybe, someday, she would show the entire galaxy what humanity was capable of when they refused to give up. The universe had made a clerical error. It had dropped a miracle girl into the heart of chaos, and that miracle girl had no intention of letting anyone forget it.